We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We've got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. They always have been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee and Crypto Live, the greatest show in crypto YouTube ever. Period. It's Positive Friday. So let's, in that chat, let's see some positivity. How about this for once? When was the last time our title did not have to do with Bitcoin? It probably has to do with the Fed, but even that, when was the last time we talked about a different coin other than Bitcoin in the title? So that's, positive right there. We're going to be talking about Ethereum today. Not that we're not going to mention Bitcoin at all, because we definitely are. There is some still stuff happening on those charts over there, but the news of the day does belong to Ethereum. Potentially, are we going to after a long wait, going to see Ethereum 2 happen very soon? We're going to talk about all of that and more. There's also some really cool headlines. We're going to be joined as well by Caleb Franzen, who has, we're going to talk to him. You're going to hear more about who he is and his experience. But we're talking more about those CPI numbers because those are still very, very important. What is the economic outlook after those numbers? And that's going to affect both Bitcoin, Ethereum, and every other altcoin that you guys love to hold and invest in. But before we jump into a great show today, I'm joined positively by two of my most favorite people. And you know what? You guys just cracked the top 12. Top 12. Every single day you're moving up. I'm joined by T-Shroom and Smay. T-Shroom, how are you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling really good. T-Shroom's in the room, and he's feeling better than he deserves.
Yes, he is.
It's me.
Boom. Smay, how you doing?
Am I doing?
Are you? I don't know.
What is it to do?
That's tough. That's a good one.
You're asking the deep
That's a
questions.
thinker.
I got to be honest with you. I'm doing, and I'm not even just doing.
Wow.
I'm doing great, if you would. If you would only.
Do you deserve to be doing that great?
I have to say, I think I do.
Wow.
I think I do.
You deserve
I
it?
think
Yeah.
my deservingness has matched my good.
That's good. That's great.
So, anyways, I would like to take this opportunity because, by the way, I'm not going to say why this is a big day for me, but this is a very, very big day for me. So I love everybody. And when I have a big day, and this is such a big day, big milestone today for my life, I'm going to read some green names. So we have Elliot Locke. We got Mitch Shaw. We got Adam Rourke. We got D's Nuts. We got who else we got here? We got Groovy. We got who else we got here? We got TA Tim in the chat. I don't know who that guy is.
I'm here. I'm
we
in
got
the chat.
Brad. We got Brad Geidel. We got who else we got here? I'm seeing a lot of repeat names here. I'm trying to find some new ones. Here we go. We got Colin McDonald. We got Sultan of Salt. We got Agent Gold. Who else? Come on, guys, chat if you want me to read your name. I mean, put it in the chat. Come on. We got here Crypto Sec Guy, Matt C, the MVPs.
Martine Seibels.
We got Martine Seibels. We got Grandroof Incorporated. We got Eye of the Beholder. We got Win Peoples. Oh my gosh. We have Go CJC. And Adam Miville. And so many awesome, great people. And a lot of people are saying, hey, say my name. Sorry. You're not a green name. So
Yeah, if you guys are wondering, he is shouting out all of our members. Thank you to each and every single last one of you because we would not be here without you. I'm loving what I'm seeing in chat though right now. A lot of you guys are shouting out. Thank you so much for the love. I was on Around the Blockchain last night, my first time ever, and it was a very, very fun show. Didn't get the camera set up the way I wanted, so when I'm on here again in 2 weeks, I'll make sure the visual is a little bit better. But I really enjoyed being there. Thank you to everyone who came and supported me and voted for me. I got close. I got second place, so
nice.
Next time I'm going for first. But, right now, before we move into our show, trust is a big issue. Trust in the market right now is very big. The government wants you to trust them, but I think we're all smart enough to know we cannot trust them. They want to steal our money. They want to take our crypto profits, the little bit that we have at the moment, if we have any at all. But you know who I trust? I trust.
Nice.
Boom. iTrust is a platform working to set you up for the future of success. You can set up a Roth IRA so that you can actually get those crypto gains tax-free. That's right, tax-free. If you're looking for a way to skirt taxes legally, because we don't ever recommend you do it illegally, if you want to skirt taxes legally, sign up with an iTrust link today. There's a description down below. You get $100 off if you go ahead and sign up today, and you will set yourself up for a long-term future retirement prosperity with your crypto gains. Again, there's not a lot today, but I guarantee whatever you're investing in right now, in the future, those will become gains, and you're going to want to go to someone you can trust, and that is iTrust. Thank you so much to iTrust Capital for sponsoring this show. We love you guys. We would not be able to do this without you. We love our members. We wouldn't do this without you. With that being said, let's jump into the content today. We got a lot to cover. And again, today is an Ethereum day, so we're going to get there in a little bit. But let's actually start with some Bitcoin news. So let me go. This is something that was posted yesterday and I thought was really, really interesting. And that is that the Fed out in St. Louis released a study of the Lightning Network that and they came to some conclusions. I'm not going to read the whole article, but summing it up, and I'm going to throw it to T-Shroom for a very short take, because I know he read through this as well. They pretty much came to the conclusion that with the Lightning Network and Bitcoin is actually a legitimate currency and can transact fast enough to do it. So this is actually really cool to see the Fed even admitting, hey, if there was any concerns about Bitcoin's ability to be used as a currency, we actually have done the research and it is legitimate. T-Shroom, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's really good. It's a positive sign that
positive Fridays.
Such a big institution would be receptive of Bitcoin. So positive Fridays. That's right, Tim.
Yeah, and I don't know how many people read this chart real quick, because we're not going to be able to go through a lot of Bitcoin TA here later, because we're going to focus on Ethereum, and then we're going to jump into some CPI stuff again with Caleb Franzen. So going to the Bitcoin chart, I've redrawn it a little bit. We are still well within this bear flag at the moment, so we're not out of the woods yet. For anyone who's wondering, hey, do we have a shot to go a little higher? I do think, so some of you guys watched my video yesterday where I talked about there was that $20,500 level from the VPVR we had to get over. We actually did climb over it even after the video, before the video even came out, we had done it. And right now, we're working in an ascending channel, but I do believe the first mark to watch, I do think Bitcoin could get all the way up to 21,600. Keep that on your radar. The next level is going to be about 22, and then after that, we're looking at around 23 for that resistance of the bear flag. If we can break through that level, bulls, because we're keeping it positive. If we can break through, I do believe 26,000 is back on the table for a short-term Bitcoin pump. I'm still thinking we're going to be going down. I have not changed my opinion, but it's positive Friday, so let's focus on the positive. I do think Bitcoin short-term is setting itself up really nice, at least to get back up here and start pushing and challenging 23,000, especially with, we have like a week and a half now until we hear from the FOMC, which it's still looking like they're going to go ahead and say 75 basis points, but let's stay positive. Until then, I think Bitcoin can continue to climb until that number happens, at least continue to move sideways. But with that being said, let's go back to some more news. Let's see, what is next on our thing? Celsius, let's go to our Celsius report. Celsius, it reported that they owe users $4.7 billion after that bankruptcy, and that's what the file reveals. T-Shroom, can you go and enlighten us a little bit more as to what that report is talking about?
Sure, yeah. Well, if you want to go to my screen, basically Dylan Leclerc, he's kind of broken down the total assets and total liabilities, and the big headline, of course, is that Celsius Network owes users $4.7 billion, and this is according to the CEO. So this is legit, and that that's going to be paid out more than likely. That's going to be really, really interesting to see how that goes down, but yeah, they are officially, their Celsius Mining is also filing for bankruptcy, but they do look like they're going to go ahead and, carve out some of those funds for their users. Whether or not it's going to actually make it to the users or not, we still don't know, but this is a step in the right direction if you are someone who lent Celsius some money. So things are looking slightly better on that front. They're still going bankrupt, but ultimately they are saying that they owe users money to the tune of $4.7 billion.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to continue to update you guys on what's happening with Celsius, but as a whole, do you see this as is this bad news saying they're not going to be able to pay it, or do you see that as saying like there's going to be a way for them to be able to pay out their people? I
think the fact that they're saying that they owe their users any money is good, because I think there's been speculation that their terms of service did not necessarily mandate that they had to pay back funds. I think their terms of service were, very, very murky. But the fact that they're coming out and saying ultimately the right thing, which is that they owe people their own money back, that's the right thing. No matter what your terms of service is, if you're a good service, obviously you pay back money to people who've lent it to you. That's just common sense.
Yeah.
But with the way that the legal world is today, you can write anything into a contract in terms of service, and it is legally binding. That's just the way that the world is. But I think it looks like they're doing the right thing here, even when they're low. So, but we'll see. I mean, there's still time for them to pivot on that, and there's still definitely legal complications to see if they even can pay that out.
Yeah, I think the good news, the takeaway from this is, hey, if you were somebody who lost money in the whole Celsius deal, and I know that I have seen several names in chat say that they are one of those. Again, you can say it right now. Put a 1 in chat if you lost money throughout that whole Celsius deal. It's not time to give up hope just yet. Maybe don't trust Alex Mashinsky. Maybe get your money back, and when you do, run with it and do not go back to Celsius, no matter who takes it over, if they ended up taking over. But if you're thinking, man, is there a chance I get my money back? That hope is still on the horizon. So keep positive, continue to stay positive. Before we transition, because we're about to jump into Ethereum. Again, that's what the title is about today. Big news coming with Ethereum. Big news on those charts as well. Why do we have Positive Friday? For anyone who's new, who's never heard, we've had this now. I think this is our third Positive Friday. The reason we have Positive Friday is because this space, especially as we're in this bear market, is so easy to get down and get toxic and just start picking on each other. And, it's really easy when you're feeling discouraged and you're feeling lost and you've lost a lot of money to just want to be negative about everything. But you know what we want to accomplish in this space is we want to be a light. One of our, the mission we have as a company is to bring hope to the hopeless and to bring light into darkness. And guess what? I'm not going to lie to you guys and say that Bitcoin's about to explode to new all-time highs, but if we ignore all the positive ththings that are happening right now in crypto, we're going to get ourselves into this almost depressive state where we can't even get back out of it, and then what's going to happen is the continual mission of, I think there's people here that bought somewhere close to that 69,000. They bought close to, 65,000. On Ethereum, they were buying close to that $3,000 level. It's really easy to be discouraged, but if you go out now because of all the negativity, you will lose out on years of gains. But if you can stay positive, oh my goodness, the future is still looking bright for crypto, and we are here to continue to remind you of that each and every single week, specifically on Fridays though. So if that's something that you love right there, smash the like button. We got almost 800 people watching, almost 200 likes. We can get that number up. And if you're new here, welcome. We love having you here. Consider hitting that subscribe button for daily content on what's happening in the crypto world. But with that being said, this is normally where we jump into some Bitcoin TA. But today, it's about Ethereum, and we're going to talk both on the charts and we're going to talk on the news. But let's go ahead and start with probably the biggest story happening with Ethereum. Let's start with an article. Ethereum jumps 12% as the merge event fast approaches. So I'm going to throw it to you, T. Shroom. You're the one that brought this to our attention. What do we need to be aware of right now when it comes to Ethereum, and how exciting is this to you?
It's pretty exciting, asterisks. So that's kind of what I'll say. It is pretty exciting. Investors have, if you go to my screen, investors have pinned high hopes on the upcoming merge event, with the second largest cryptocurrency rising double digits this morning. And some of the stuff that I felt was important into the article is the first off, Ethereum gained 12.76% over the last 24 hours as of the writing of this article, soaring past $1,200. The highest anticipated upgrade will transition Ethereum from proof of work blockchain network to a proof of stake network. This upgrade is expected to improve the network scalability as well as reduce its carbon footprint. As we know, scalability has been a big bane for Ethereum and has kind of troubled it and made it difficult for it to be taken seriously or to be competitive with Bitcoin. It's definitely taken seriously, but it's kind of the main issue, the main downfall with those gas fees. Really limit its scalability, and so there's other chains like Solana and like Binance that are kind of on its heels. Although Ethereum still has quite a lead there in terms of market cap. But yeah, so it definitely pumped the price of Ethereum. People are definitely optimistic. But if there was another important tweet to this effect, if you wanted to go to my screen again.
Yeah, I think this is where it really gets into the details of how we should be excited, but also what we need to be watching for.
Yeah, so the merge timeline isn't final, but it's extremely exciting to see it coming together Please regard this as a planning timeline and look out for official announcements. And this is an individual who's very close with the Beacon Chain community, health consultant. So interesting title there, but this is making its rounds around Twitter as an official, as a semi-official, or what does he say? A planning timeline. So we have gone back and forth on how to pronounce this word, but Gorelli.
I think it's Gorley. I think
Gorley.
from everything I've seen, I think it's Gorley.
Gorley. It's not Italian. It actually is German, it looks like.
I don't know,
Anyway, it doesn't matter. This is just the name of a test net that looks to be merged with Prater, and that release will be on the 27th or the 28th of July. So that is coming up very soon. The 27th would be interesting because that's when the Fed decision is. And then another important date was this August 18th was when the mainnet merged. And then 2 weeks later is kind of the big one. The September 19th is when it looks like the proof of stake will be kind of the no turning back point, is when the final it'll be when the final block for proof of stake is finally put into action and merged with the mainnet there. So that'll be really good if it happens. But that's kind of the lingering question, right, Tim? Is if it happens.
Well, and I think that's the key. They said is that right now it's looking like September 19th. So that's super exciting. And it's what seems like it's been forever. Like ever since I got into the space, I feel like we've been talking about ETH 2.0 going to be launching. But it looks like that September 19th, I believe, is the date is calling for. It looks like that date is on par to come. The only thing is, again, that Gorley update, and I believe that is going to be seen later this month, July, around the same time as when we have the Cardano Vassal hard fork coming out. So the end of July is going to be a really, really fun time for us crypto influencers to be able to discuss and bring you guys a lot of information, Cardano, about about Ethereum, about what's happening with this Gorley this Gorley update. And it's saying that as long as that goes smoothly, as long as Gorley passes, and there's a lot of hope in the space right now that everything is on track with it, that's the final piece. That's the only thing separating us from ETH 2.0 on September 19th actually happening. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to see this happen because, again, since I've come into the space, we've been waiting on ETH 2.0 to come out. Here is some questions, though, because let's go ahead and go over to the Ethereum chart, and we'll continue to unpack this update as we go through the chart, T-Shroom. But Ethereum has actually been growing very, very steadily. Bitcoin, I'm going to show you the Bitcoin chart really quickly. Bitcoin has been growing as well. That's the Coinbase chart with all my numbers. The Bitcoin chart is growing as well. But you guys are going to see, I went this morning and I drew some pretty crucial levels both on Bitcoin and Ethereum. You guys see these blue levels where there's these zones. And yes, both of them have ascending levels as well to them. But if I go back over here to the ETH, you guys see several different blue levels. Of course, our bottom that we had here around 870 back on June 18th. June 18th or so. But we've been hovering kind of sideways. The good news about Ethereum is, unlike Bitcoin, which actually has been forming more of like an ascending channel, which more often than not, paired with the fact that it's also considered a bear flag, breaks to the downside, Ethereum has kind of had a flat top right here. So we've already had, while we set it back here, we've had these two more touches with a double top, and we're looking to go triple. And you guys know, if you guys have been studying technical analysis, the more and more you go up and start testing those levels, the more likely you are to break through them. And the fact, this is not a very quickly ascending bottom level, but this ascending bottoms, these support level continue to go up, is setting up an ascending triangle, which traditionally breaks to the upside. Now, this could still be considered a bear pennant, and so I don't want to take away from that, or a bear flag, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to get rid of that thought, but just so you guys know, the more and more Ethereum continues to bounce up and hit this level, come back down and set a higher low, the more and the better the case that Ethereum could have to end up breaking out bullish, especially with this news that's coming out that ETH 2.0, which has been highly anticipated for a while now, or been highly waited for a while now, is going to be coming. The other thing that's really helping Ethereum news, and that I think people need to remember, is, of course, Matic, and we're going to talk about Matic more here in a second, because Matic, of course, the other day struck a deal with Disney, which is looking super exciting. Matic itself jumped almost 20% overnight after that news broke. But of course, because that's a layer 2 solution on Ethereum to help transactions, Ethereum benefited from that. So Right now, as it stands, Ethereum TA on the charts, Ethereum is actually outpacing Bitcoin. It's definitely outpacing Cardano. Really quickly, even showing you guys that one. Let's show, Bitcoin's beginning to climb. Ethereum's beginning to climb. Cardano is not. It's so funny because Cardano for the longest time was staying away from big dips the way the rest of the market was. But now that Ethereum and Bitcoin are starting to climb, Cardano is actually starting to be a little bit low. If I even go over to Cardano over ADA, which for the longest, Cardano over ETH, which for the longest time had been, Cardano was gaining on it. Look what we've actually been happening. Ethereum's been gaining some ground on Cardano here ever since June, back in the middle of June. This is a pattern, though, that I do think could break bullish, especially, later this month as Vasil comes out. Watch Cardano start to rally back in. But as it stands right now, Ethereum is actually outpacing Cardano. So it's been a good last couple of days for Ethereum. And I do think that potentially, even with this news happening, if that Goerli hard fork, I keep saying hard fork because that's not what it is. Even that Goerli update and the testnet comes out successfully, I think Ethereum has a very good case. I think almost one of the reasons why it's down, aside from the fact that we're in a bear market, is also that, man, the fees are too high. We still have, we've been waiting for this proof of stake to come out now for a while, but we continue to kind of push that and kick that can down the road. We're kind of getting close to where, again, that hope is on the horizon, and I think that we could see Ethereum do very, very well because it is still king of altcoins. Yes, Bitcoin is king of crypto, but Bitcoin and crypto and altcoins are two completely different things. Everyone wants to throw them in as if they are the exact same thing, but I think the more and more of this next year, we're going to realize, no, they are two very different products. Bitcoin, of course, as a store of value, that is its sole purpose, whereas when you're looking at some of these altcoins like Ethereum and Cardano, their purpose isn't necessarily value. They actually have objectives to accomplish that will better this world. It's two different products, two different things. And so as it stands right now, Ethereum is king of altcoins. And potentially with this news we have breaking, was this late last night, early this morning, with those dates kind of becoming more official, could we see Ethereum rally? I want to throw it to you, T-Shroom, now that we've looked at the charts and talked about the news. What are your thoughts about Ethereum 2? Do you still have high hopes, or do you think we're going to be disappointed at the end of this month?
That's a good question. I mean, the market seems like it has high hopes. I think that they'll get this Goerli testnet merged, and I think that it'll be somewhat. From what I'm reading, it looks like there's a high chance that there could be some issues with it, but they're going to find out. So we'll see. But I don't think that the Goerli is the end all be all. I think it's just one step in what it really does. I'll read it out. You don't need to go to my screen, but the Goerli testnet will be merged with the Prater proof of stake beacon chain. This will mark the end of the permissioned proof of authority phase, and everyone will be able to run a validator on Goerli. It's the last block for proof of stake that also brings in proof of authority. That was kind of my summary of what Goerli is. I haven't done like hours and hours of analysis of it, but that's just kind of the takeaway that I was able to surmise from reading over some GitHub stuff and just trying to understand it. So I think that ultimately, if you go to my screen now, I think that we bounce off this resistance here on Ethereum and on Bitcoin, and we go lower, just because by the 27th, I think that we will be, the Fed's going to come out with 75 basis points, and it's going to be a little bit of a bear moment for the market there, because it's just going to continue to suck the energy, suck the excitement, and ultimately suck the money out of the market. And again, we've been telling the story again and again, that the less money that the Fed is making money more expensive, the less that money is gonna flow into higher risk assets like Bitcoin and like Ethereum. So I think I'm kind of a little bit coming out on the bear side. I think that Ethereum won't be higher a month from now. But as you're getting towards the end of the year, I think that you are starting to see maybe these names coming back up.
Something I do think I want to bring on Kelly here probably next week to talk about. I've been talking with Kelly a lot. By the way, shout out to Kelly Kellum. I know he's in chat. A lot of you guys follow him. If you don't, go follow him on Twitter. He is, working with us very heavily on Club DeFi. But, him and I were talking, we were looking at some on-chain charts, and I'm not going to pull them up right now, and I'm going to talk with him and get him to bring them up. But Ethereum actually, when you're looking at some of the figures of strong hands versus weak hands, diamond hands versus paper hands, Ethereum actually has a lot of strong hands in the market. The weak hands are being weeded out. So, when we're talking about what is the bottom of these price actions for these coins, yes, the fundamentals are still going to come in. Yes, weak hands can be created through fundamentals changing, through news breaking out of things that we didn't know was going to happen. Black swan events can happen. But as it stands right now, I actually think, based off what Kelly and I were looking at on those charts, it does look like a lot of the weak hands on Ethereum are out. And if we have some fundamental breaking news with this, and if ETH 2.0 does come to fruition in this timeline that they're talking about, I think that Ethereum very much could have a rebound, even if the Fed comes out hawkish. Now, I do think that's something to keep in mind. We got to continue to watch that. We're going to talk with Caleb Franzen a little bit more about that here in probably about 10, 15 minutes or so. But there's still a lot that can happen. And I do think, yes, I think that if that number comes out, I'm still, you guys, I haven't changed my mind about a Bitcoin price going down to lower teens. And Ethereum definitely could fall as well. But it's going to be really interesting to watch those charts. It's going to be interesting to watch the news. It is going to be a wrestling point to say, okay, yes, we have some bearish news coming into space. We had the Fed. Are they going to come out hawkish? But at the same time, there's so many great, strong, fundamental aspects being built on these altcoins. It's going to be a nice little wrestling match to watch. With that being said, though, my last question, before we transition into some super chats, and then we get Caleb Franzen on here, Matic. So, obviously, Matic is the hot story of this week with them having that massive bounce. They were the top gaining altcoin of the week after that Disney news launched, again, gaining about 20%. You go to my chart real quick, Smay. They even broke out of a symmetrical triangle pattern. They broke to the upside, and they're rallying. Right now, I do think the levels to watch on Matic, they bounced off of about that 73-cent mark, maybe a little higher. The mark's about 74. I guess they got quite right about 73.5 or so. I think the next march, if they can get through that mark of and that resistance level of 74, then the next one to watch is going to be closer to 95 cents. I don't know if there's a whole heck of a lot of volume in between those levels because we did drop pretty quickly. Here's the question, though. And we've asked this before, but I want to explore it again very, very quickly, T-Shroom. If ETH 2.0 comes out successfully very soon, what do you think is going to happen to Matic?
Well, that's kind of something we've been thinking about on the research team, which is, Matic, Polygon's the project, Matic's the coin. Polygon really benefits from Ethereum's weakness, Ethereum's limited scalability and their high gas fees, right? Polygon is there kind of solving that problem for Ethereum. But if Ethereum can solve that problem for itself, what happens to Polygon? Well, that's why it's important for Polygon to make these deals with like Disney and other dApps. Disney's not a dApp, but with other dApps and other NFT projects, for it to become undeniable, for it to become its own moat, for it to become its own product. And I think it really is emerging in that way. And I think that's being reflected in its coin price, up 40% from its lows there, or from its recent lows in July, from the 12th. So that's pretty good. I do think, and then also something to keep in mind, Tim, is that these test nets, even the test net that I think merges in September, I don't think is going to solve the gas fees yet. That's going to be solved by sharding, which is going to be even further down the road. And even then, it's questionable whether or not the sharding is actually going to be able to solve the high gas fees and scalability. So Polygon definitely has a little bit of a tough road ahead of it, but making deals with companies like Disney, that's only going to very, very strongly favor the coin Polygon. So
yeah,
I'm pretty optimistic for it. I think ultimately it can pull out and make it through this bear market. But if at some point Ethereum figures out its own scalability issues on its own, then these layer twos, not just Ethereum, but also Loopring and Optimism and others, they could start having to answer some questions, some tough questions. But I think as for now, especially landing this big Disney deal, Matic is safe.
I know that deal is very big for them, and it is kind of funny that is coming, right before news is breaking that we actually have hope on the horizon for ETH 2.0. So, I'm a believer. I think what's going to be really big to see is that if ETH 2.0 had been delayed, I believe Matic could have been one of those coins that jumped into the top 10 easily. I'm interested to see where they go with ETH 2.0 actually existing. But let's go ahead and transition into some super chats. Let's get some chat involved before we bring Caleb on. I know I saw like one. Do we have any more than one super chats?
Yeah, only one super chat, and I can go ahead and crank that one out. Elliot Locke donating $5. Canada did a 1%. hike a couple days ago. I did see that. And while we're on the subject, actually, because there aren't any other super chats.
No, there's one. We got one from Nico.
Okay.
Nico Wild said, raising rates after doubling the money supply, expecting to avoid the set consequence is like shaking a rain stick and thinking it brought the rain. Well, some people think that, but yeah, I get your point there, Nico. Yeah, what were you saying there, T-Shroom?
Oh, yeah, if you'll just go to my screen really quick. We did get some positive data in today, one at 8:30 and one at 10 a.m., both U.S. data. U.S. retail sales month over month actually rose and was better than forecasted. It rose by 1%, and the forecast was 0.8. And the previous revision was negative 0.1. So this is showing that the U.S. consumer is being resilient. Folks are still talking about those pandemic checks that were written by the late Trump administration and the early Biden administration. I don't know, they were both Trump administration, but anyway, they're talking about that lingering money was actually saved and is being spent now. So, and then also you get the Michigan consumer sentiment. For July, it also outperformed its forecast. So those are both showing that the U.S. consumer is strong. Now you might be watching right now, and you might not feel very strong. You might not be looking in your piggy bank and thinking very positive thoughts. But the statistics are showing that folks are feeling generally somewhat optimistic to the point where they're able to go out and spend. And maybe that's a temporary phenomenon, but right now the data is showing that folks have money in their pockets and they're willing to spend it.
We'll see. I mean, with these data charts and the numbers they give, you always got to wonder how many of them. Well, first of all, you got to wonder how they were calculated, and then secondly, how many of them are actually accurate. But it's Positive Friday. So let's keep moving on. Before we bring Caleb on, we're going to talk a lot more about CPI and the Fed announcement coming here in about a week and a half from him. But first, another news story. We didn't cover this in Market Pulse, but some of you don't care, and some of you do care. The New York Yankee players and staff are now able to convert their salary into Bitcoin. Again, this is sports ball. But this is really cool. Whenever you see a sports team get paid in Bitcoin, that's really cool. And there's two types of people in this world. There are people that love the Yankees and people that hate the Yankees. And if you don't care about sports, that means you hate the Yankees. Just go ahead and jump on that train. Don't let them win. Don't let the New York Yankees be paid in Bitcoin and not do that for yourself. You know how you can level the playing field with the New York Yankees? You can go get Hedge. Hedge allows you to be paid from your employer in Bitcoin, in Ethereum, in Litecoin, in whatever you want. It is a business that allows you to take part of your paycheck and automatically deposit it into your account as crypto. Yes, save those exchange fees, be able to DCA in at these low levels. If you are somebody who has been waiting and wanting to be paid in crypto, Hedge is the solution for you. Go sign up with that link down in the description below. Again, thank you to Hedge for being a sponsor of the channel. We couldn't do it without you guys. With that being said, let's go ahead and bring on Caleb. Caleb, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Man, I'm so glad to have you on the show today.
Yeah, excited to be here, man.
Yeah, real quick before we jump in, because I got lots of questions for you. Can you tell the audience just a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and what you're passionate about in this space?
Yeah, sure. So I come from a traditional finance background. In college, I got my economics degree from UC Santa Barbara. I did internships in wealth management and on the banking side for a little bit, spent some time at Merrill Lynch and some community banks in Santa Barbara. And then after graduating, went up to San Francisco and I was working as a commercial portfolio analyst for a subsidiary of BNP Paribas called Bank of the West. Did that for just shy of 2 years and then decided to kind of start and launch my own macro and investment research business, which is Cubic Analytics. So not only do I post on Twitter, a lot of research and analysis on there about macro, about the stock market, about Bitcoin and crypto. But then I also do a newsletter on Substack with free weekly reports, kind of discussing the three major components that I look at within the economic and financial system.
Awesome. And what, maybe you answered right there, but what made you so passionate about crypto specifically?
I mean, I got the Bitcoin bug big time. I really kind of in college, I really subscribed to that Austrian school of economics and really spent a lot of my time focused on the monetary policy environment and the Fed and really trying to get a gauge for just kind of like the broader banking system, if you will. And I was a gold bug for a consistent amount of time and then really kind kind of got converted over to Bitcoin and the fixed and programmatic nature of the monetary supply, and really just kind of got on board with this concept of digital scarcity and increasing digital scarcity over time.
Well, have you read Safedin Amos' book, The Bitcoin Standard?
I have not actually.
Wow.
And I'm such a fan of Saifedean, and I listen to his podcast frequently and listen to a lot of the interviews that he gives.
Yeah.
And I think I need to buy the book and actually kind of get into the weeds on it. But I feel like I've kind of supplemented with just kind of his general thoughts on things.
No, I mean, that was one of the first books I read in the crypto space. And it literally is a book. It actually is a little dangerous because it makes you, when you close the book, it makes you want to go immediately turn every single dollar you have into Bitcoin. I'm super excited. I haven't gotten to start it yet. And I'm sorry, Tom Wilkes got me a signed copy of the Fiat Standard. And I haven't started that one yet,
nice.
but I'm super excited for that one. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it though. So I want to hear, I've gotten to give my take on it. T-Stream's gotten to give his take on it. And I've gotten to be on a couple other shows this week talking about these CPI numbers, that 9.1. I want to hear your take, Caleb. What are your thoughts when you saw those numbers?
There was no good takeaway from the June CPI. And when we continue to see inflation data not only just remain historically elevated at kind of like these 40+ year highs, but continue to accelerate higher, this is a major concern. And, the Fed has come out and really tried to kind of posture and stand straight that they're going to be resilient in fighting inflation. And, I really do believe that they mean what they say, but unequivocally, they're so far behind the curve that now not only are they needing to get inflation back in line and fight the actual inflation problem that they have to protect their dual mandate, but they also have a massive credibility problem on their hands. So watching them kind of walk this tightrope and navigate this balancing act is very interesting. I think we're living through a period of time that's certainly going to be in the history books of economic and monetary policy as we kind of continue to embark on this experiment of QE infinity. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I love how you put it there. I mean, I don't know if I'm brave enough to say it that way. You said you think that they're trying to do what they're saying they're trying to do. But even with those numbers, because I know one of the biggest issues has been that unemployment rate number. And I think, Jerome Powell's been very avid about that's one of the key things he's looking at when he's deciding this. When you heard those numbers here about a week ago about the unemployment rate, what were your thoughts about those numbers?
So I was surprised to see the unemployment rate stay right on that 3.6% level. I think that was even the second or third consecutive month of it being right there. The thing that I was most intrigued to see from the non-farm payroll data last week was the labor force participation rate ticked slightly lower. And not only did the aggregate labor force participation rate decline, but we also saw the prime age labor force participation rate also kind of regress slightly. And in my opinion, I've done a lot of research on this, particularly when I was in college, but we typically see an inverse relationship between the labor force participation rate and the unemployment rate. So when we see the labor force participation rates come down, but the unemployment rate not necessarily ticking higher, to me, that shows even more that the job and labor market is extremely dynamic and tight and strong right now. There's certainly a lot of issues in terms of all of the job openings, over 11 million, right? And the number still blows my mind to this day, how we still have all this demand for new employment opportunities. But the jobs market right now seems extremely resilient from my perspective. And for the Fed, tying this back to your initial question, I think that they're looking at that and saying, it's basically going to, in my opinion, embolden them to act more aggressively and to continue to stay the course in these rate hike, in the rate hikes.
Yeah, and something that our team's been discussing here a little bit, I want to get your thoughts on is, how many of those numbers with the employment are even, okay, so there's a lot of information that could go into that. So first of all, those numbers would not even tell you how many people have graduated with a bachelor's degree or even better have a master's degree and yet are still working some sort of service job, like being a waiter or a waitress or something like that. How about that? What is your thoughts about even the skilled jobs right now? Because have you seen any numbers that talk about that? I think that's what we're seeing right now. And in the country, when we see there's a lot of job openings, a lot of those job openings are lower level jobs. And I still think that, if you're just talking to your average everyday person, you're seeing a lot of frustration out there about getting the higher end jobs, the better better paying jobs. So, what do you think the government's doing with that? Because I think there's a lot of people being very frustrated as the dollar becomes less valuable every single day. And $15 an hour just does not do what it used to do. But that's the job that I think a lot of people are taking at this point. What are your thoughts about all of that? And do you think that in that, because you just said you think the job force is pretty strong right now, do you think it's strong in that relationship as well? Or do you see there being a weakness in that category?
Those were such great points that you brought up, and so many different things. And so I think first and foremost, I would say I'm personally not familiar with the composition of those 11 million job openings to know exactly what kind of the dispersion is, if you will, in terms of, let's just call them like blue collar versus white collar employment opportunities, if you will. So I'm not sure about that, but that's a very interesting thing that you bring up. The second thing that I would like to say is to address your point that overall consumers right now are really struggling, and it's unequivocal right now. I saw data on it. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it was basically looking at the amount of jobs that are like people working multiple jobs is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And it's increasing for sure. And if we look at something like nominal wage growth, for example, nominal wage growth is not let me say it this way. It's not keeping up with inflation. So we have real wage growth that's negative. But if you look at something like total earnings growth, which accounts for the number of jobs and total hours worked in addition to nominal wages, we actually have total nominal earnings growth of just shy of 10%. And so this might be like a bright spot. I think a lot of economists would say, oh, okay, well, total earnings growth is up, 9 point something percent. That's a good sign. I see that actually as somewhat of a negative because it shows a significant amount of stress on consumers to keep up with inflation. And the only way that they're able to do that, in addition to relying on credit and dipping into their savings, is working significantly more hours and multiple jobs. So that's a great point that you bring up.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I asked that even is we had Wendy O on the show yesterday, and her and I were talking about this a little bit because she lives out in California. She said there's people not even paying the rent. They can't afford to pay the rent, so they're just not doing it. And of course, there's things happening within the government that they're not, the state government, they're not really enforcing that as much. But even, what's happening out there, the ability to even survive out there is just becoming ridiculous. And I told her the story of my brother. My brother actually moved out there for a couple of months, and he was so excited when he got a job that was going to pay him $16 an hour. And after 3 months, when he realized he could not pay his rent, he couldn't continue to pay for food, he was a Florida boy, so $16 an hour at that time would have been, a job paying $16 an hour when you're that young is phenomenal. But he went out to LA and he just could not do it. And I think that kind of phenomenon is spreading across the entire United States where, I just saw here in Gainesville, Florida, McDonald's advertising that they pay a whopping $13 an hour. And it's crazy because I'm 28 now. I remember 8 years ago thinking that if I could make $13 an hour, I would be set. I could live off that for a little bit. Now it's like, man, that is the bare bottom of the barrel. And we're not that far away from $13 an hour still, $15 an hour, whatever. You're not even above the poverty line still. You're still struggling day in and day out. So, I think it's going to be really interesting. But let's kind of transition. Let's transition this because we talked about it a little bit earlier on the show, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. The Canadian, this is right, T-Shrimp, the Canada just rose their interest rates by one whole, 100 basis points or a whole 1%. Do you think here in about a week and a half, do you think that Jerome Powell and the Fed could potentially entertain that whole 1%? Do you think they'll stay at 75 basis points? Do you think that they go a little dovish and go with 50? What are your thoughts about what we're going to see here in about a week and a half?
So I would need to check up on the odds because I'm interested to see how it's kind of evolved here over the course of the last couple of days.
Do you check the CME futures?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's sitting just about at 50-50.
No, it's not.
Did it shift this morning?
It's 29. It's reversed. So
it just changed?
75 basis points is at 29%, and 50 basis points is at 70%.
Okay, so when we checked this morning, remember it was 50. It was like 54.
Yep. So it's flipped, and I think the reason for that is because the CMEs they are futures, right? And I think that they overcorrect. So right now, we're looking at these in real time, 2 days after the inflation data. So I think it's overcorrecting, and it's going to come back to 75. And also there was a big speech by one of the Fed governors, Waller, yesterday, and he really walked back very strongly 100 basis points. So, but I want to hear your
Well,
your
and what I was
answer
going to say
Caleb.
there, but when we get Caleb to answer it, it's really crazy, Caleb, because when we were looking at those numbers again last week, it's like 95% said 50 basis points. Then the day that we had the announcement, it shifted 85% said 75, and then it shifted back again yesterday, late last night, when I was on Around the Blockchain. I was looking at it. It had shifted back to almost 60% saying 50, and then this morning it was sitting right there around 50-50. And I guess now, just an hour later after checking this, T. Shroom is saying that what was your official number for 50 again? What was the prediction for 50?
For 50, it is 70%.
Okay, so that is a massive swing. This is changing almost by the minute at this point. So that's maybe that doesn't really answer your question very well that you asked. You'd be interested to see that. But what are your thoughts after hearing all of that?
No, it definitely answers my question. Thanks for the context. I
Yeah.
think, first of all, I'm very surprised to hear that. I would still put a significant likelihood on a 75 basis point rate hike. And if we lived in my fairy tale land and I was on the board, I would be voting for 100 bips.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons I'm digesting what you guys just told me and thinking about it. I think one of the main reasons for the decline perhaps today and the increase in likelihood over 50 bips is the University of Michigan data did an update on, I think it was the 5-year inflation expectations. And that ticked down, I think, from like 3.2% or 3.1% down to 2.8%. So based on that, it seems as though inflation expectations, or let me say it this way. Well, first of all, inflation expectations are coming down, and they're coming down notably. And the Fed is going to interpret that and see that as, elevated inflation is not becoming embedded in consumer psychology. I don't put nearly as much credibility into forward-looking inflation expectations because I just don't. I mean, how do we know? What's the survey? What are the questions that are being asked? Who's being asked? Like, how are we coming up with 2.8% for 5-year inflation expectations? I don't understand. But I think that is a notable decline. And so perhaps the market is interpreting that as the Fed is going to see that and think that, inflation is not becoming embedded in consumer psychology, and therefore we can perhaps slow down and decrease the aggressive nature of our rate hikes. But I don't put too much credence in that. I would expect them to go 75.
Okay, so and now my next question on that one would be, if we went 75 basis points, well, let's do this. If we went 75 basis points, what do you think will happen to Bitcoin's price? And then let's play the game. Let's go. Let's say they get super hawkish and something changes between now and then, and they end up going and following Canada's, footsteps and go a full whole 100 basis points. And then, back it up and say, let's say they go dovish and go 50. What would be your expectations? I don't need you to give price numbers necessarily, exact numbers, but where do you think the market's going based off of those three different directions?
So if the market right now, based on the CME futures, is putting a significant likelihood on a 50 bips rate hike, and we end up getting 75, the market is going to readjust and price in that additional 25 bips that wasn't exactly being priced in as of right now. And so, as I'm sure you guys know, interest rates and asset prices have an inverse relationship, all else being equal. And so when we see interest rates increase, if we see yields rise, that means that the discount rate with which we're discounting future cash flows is also rising. Therefore, the present value of those future cash flows is worth less today. And so if we do see 75 versus 50, which the market is essentially pricing in right now, then I would expect to see asset prices on the aggregate correct slightly lower. To what magnitude, I'm not exactly sure. But if we look even at Bitcoin's price today, we're just shy of 20.9K. And so we're seeing markets
I think we touched 21 this morning.
Oh, did we really?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, the markets broadly speaking are rallying today. I think based on the University of Michigan data and the retail sales data. The thing that's interesting about retail sales is they were up 1% on a month over month basis for June.
Okay.
But that does not account for inflation. So if you look at real retail sales, they were actually down 0.3% last month.
Yeah.
So I think just generally speaking, though, the market is interpreting some of the data that we're getting this week, I think post CPI, and seeing reasons for the Fed to be slightly more dovish. Yeah. I think you mentioned Waller's comments yesterday. We were getting someone else's comments this morning. And we even had, what's her name? I always forget what her name is. I have it up right here. Loretta Mester, who's the Cleveland Fed president. She gave some really bold comments 2 days ago on following the CPI, and said that the Fed is really going to be locked in on the retail sales data and the University of Michigan data. So I think that's again why we're seeing such a big shift back towards 50 bips, is because these two data points are kind of warranting that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the headline points were they beat expectations. They beat the forecasts on both of those. So
Well, that's good to know, because I've always asked that question at previous meetings, and that's I'm gonna have to remember that one, because we've always kind of asked, Jerome Powell will say, well, we got to review the data. Well, we got to review the data. Well, we got to review the data. It's like, well, what data are you reviewing at all times? Like, we know you talked about the job market, but other than that, like, what data are you reviewing to make your predictions? So you're saying it looks like those Michigan reports are some of the key figures they're looking at.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Okay.
the University of Michigan data is extremely important. And whether we're talking about consumer expectations or like these inflation expectations and just general like economic activity, I think they just even index it, and that came in even higher than expectations. And so on the aggregate, this report was strong and it is showing resilience in the economy. My concern, though, is if the economy is showing resilience, the Fed has expressly said that they're trying to re-equilibrate demand lower to match with all the supply constraints that we have in the market.
Yeah.
And so if demand shows itself to continue to be resilient, and we see quote unquote positive economic data or data that's beating expectations, from my perspective, that is flashing a green light for the Fed that they can continue to embark on this rate hike regime.
exactly.
And so that's why, for me, I'm very surprised to hear that the market is now pricing in a higher likelihood of 50 bips over 75.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. We need to make a note of that Michigan. We're gonna have to follow that all of next week.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I think that, like I said, I think it's just the market overcorrecting to that. How it's just that it's physics laws essentially at that point. It's correcting, and then it's going to come back. I think it's going to be 75 because it's like what you just said. This report gives them all the ammo they need to be more hawkish, not more dovish. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Can I add to something that you just said there really quickly? Because I would absolutely agree, because I think quantitatively, in order to fight inflation, the Fed needs to do, in my opinion, 75 bips. However, I also mentioned at the beginning of this call and this talk that the Fed is also dealing with a serious credibility problem right now.
Yeah.
And so not only are they having to raise rates for quantitative measures, they're also needing to raise rates for these qualitative measures. And so as they're kind of fighting to bring inflation back and restore their credibility, I see the need for them to be more aggressive than they're being now, because they're unequivocally behind the curve.
Yeah.
Well, Caleb, we're running out of time here. I have about 174 questions I have left in my brain for you. So we're going to get you back on the show here very soon. My last question, though, I do want to leave the audience with your opinion. And again, we want to stress, Caleb, I'm sure you don't want people thinking you're giving any type of financial advice, but I just want to hear your thought. Was 17.5 the bottom, or does Bitcoin have a little further to go?
I think we have further to go. I've done some different studies looking at long-term overbought and oversold levels. I use something called the Williams %R indicator. And for me, I looked at a 24-month oversold on the Williams %R, and essentially saw that when that signal flashes, which it did in June of 2022, that typically the Bitcoin market stays oversold for about 6 to 9 months. And after that signal flashes, we get a max drawdown of roughly 23%. And so I think with the close in June being in the low 19,000 range, somewhere around there, I wouldn't be surprised to see a quick thrust back into kind of the mid-teens, if you will, maybe the 15 to 16,000 range. I think structurally, I definitely have my eye on the mid 13,000s. Don't know if we'll get there, but I'm certainly planning for it. I think at the very least, I expect sideways action and enhanced volatility. So I would not be surprised at all to see fluctuations between the $18,000 to $32,000 range for the next 4 to 6 months.
Wow.
So any of these big momentum thrusts, I'm not, FOMOing in. I'm continuing to stick to my dollar cost average schedule and remain patient. And I definitely feel the need to, if you will, elongate my purchasing window, if you will.
You think we could get all the way up to 32 and we could range between here and 32?
Yeah. So I had referenced that Williams percent R study that I had done, and in one of the prior two signals that had happened in the past, it's only happened, this is the third time ever, we had seen rallies in excess of 40% to the upside before having that total of 20% correction to the downside. And so those studies that I had done showed that volatility is to be expected. And when I even do studies for the stock market on the aggregate, I'm seeing the same thing. Volatility in this time is to be expected. So I wouldn't be surprised to see, I would maybe refer to it as like violent choppiness, if you will, right? We're going to have head fakes in both directions to a considerable magnitude.
Yes, I completely agree. There was one question in chat. I know I told you that was the last question. Nico Wild, though, did ask this, and he put in the chat he wanted you to answer it. Tapering avoids further inflation once printed inflation plays out. Also helps avoid stacking new inflation over old. Is that correct?
He's saying tapering?
Yes.
I think he means hiking.
Okay, yeah, because the tapering process is done. Maybe what he might be referring to is the balance sheet reduction.
Could be.
I don't know. I'm hesitant to answer the question because I'm not exactly sure what the question is asking. I apologize.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to move on. Last one though, I told that's the third last question, but this one's about where people can follow you because again, I have more questions for you, but I'm sure other people want to hear more from what you're thinking about the market. Where can people be following you on any type of social media platform?
Check me out. First of all, appreciate it. Check me out on Twitter. I post a lot of macro data on there. I post a lot of Bitcoin charts. I do a lot of technical analysis and statistical analysis to kind of combine with the macro perspectives that I'm seeing in the market. So if you're interested in tying together these macro themes with actual market dynamics, I do a lot of research on there very frequently. In addition, I have my Substack, cubicanalytics.substack.com. I do free weekly research reports breaking down the most important things I'm seeing on the macro level, on the stock market level, and Bitcoin. So those are the two best places to find me for both my long and short form content. So,
And if anyone was wondering, those links are in the description down below. Go click on them. Follow this man, Caleb. I hope you don't think I'm joking or lying to you. I have 174 questions, and I'm bringing you back on very, very soon. So stay by your phone.
I'd love to come back on. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. This was fantastic.
Caleb. We'll talk to you later.
Peace.
All right, bye. Wow. I like Caleb. Caleb's a solid name too. Got a brother named Caleb. We have lots of friends named Caleb. Caleb is a good name.
I gotta say I like this Caleb more than your Caleb.
Ooh,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Kind of
I like all the Caleb.
Did you guys see that he's getting interest from the New England Patriots?
I didn't hear that.
Last year, the Seattle Seahawks were showing a lot of interest in him. The Patriots are showing interest in him this year. He's going to be fun to watch. We're talking about sports ball for everyone who doesn't know. My brother plays tight end for the University of Rhode Island, and he is a senior. And but speaking of Caleb's are awesome. Caleb Franzen is definitely awesome. But we're going to have to, start wrapping up the show. Today is Friday, so it is the winner of the HODL Trophy. So we are past, it's 10:56. The price of Bitcoin is sitting at $20,900. The closest one to that was T-Shroom. And T-Shroom, you threw that number out there. Your 20,000 prediction is almost like, whatever, I'll just change the pace. What do you have to say now? You are the winner. This is your third win of the HODL Trophy?
That is correct. I haven't really kept track just because one of my core values is being humble.
Wow.
So I try to, I take them when I can get them, the wins. But I just feel like life is a win just because I'm breathing in and breathing out. But that's what I have to say. So what I'll say as far as the prediction, the denotated wham. As far as the prediction, I made that prediction just because you guys went low. I figured I didn't increase my chances of success by going high. In reality, my portfolio was positioned for it to go low, which has been funny. I went short through the Biddy ETF, and if you have the ability to use that ETF, I recommend considering using it as a more robust tool in your toolbox of crypto trading. And so we'll see. I'm winning this now, but I'm not winning in my portfolio. Overall, I have a much bigger position in Bitcoin than I do to the downside of Bitcoin. But I try to win both ways, and I think I'll have an opportunity here as Bitcoin swings back lower toward the teens, probably around the 27th in the run up to that Fed decision. But right now, I'm rejoicing and I'm really living in the moment here. Yeah. I'd like to thank just kind of everybody who's been influencing me and giving me positive vibes out there in the cyberspace. all in the .coms. And so I want to just thank everybody out there.
Last question for you, T-Shroom, before I wrap this one up. Would you rather hold that HODL trophy every single week, but have to give up that ginormous monitor you have out there at your cubicle, or keep the cubicle and never win the HODL trophy ever again? Tough.
I
It's
would
close.
much rather keep my. Do I get to sell my monitor and keep the money?
Yeah, okay. I was trying to set you up there to say the HODL trophy, but you missed a bit. All right. Well, guys, that is all we have for you in today's show. It is Friday, so this is the last show of the week, but I just want to encourage each and every single last one of you guys to go have a good day today. Be positive. Again, this is Positive Fridays. We're going to bring a little bit of difference to the crypto market where so many people try to bring us down with negativity and toxicity. Not here at Crypto Jebb. We are going to keep ourselves positive, keep our heads up. And, I said this last night on Debate Crypto. I want to kind of close with this and just remind you guys, hey, this is a season. Those of you who have lost on trades, those of you who are in the red, guess what? Embrace the failure. You will learn more from failure than you will learn from success. I'm not saying don't be successful and learn your lessons from success, but there's something about failing. There's something about having skin in the game and losing that makes you dig even deeper into their education and the training and learning how to make yourself better day in and day out. So those of you who have had a bad day here and there, pick your head up, learn from it. It's going to be the best lesson in your entire life. You can ask each and every single person you come into contact with, and I guarantee you some of the biggest life lessons they have learned is stories of failure. Do not run away from it. Embrace it. With that being said, guys, I love you. I will see you guys in the next video next week. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good feeling. Got a real good feeling.